in the still hours before dawn on December 11, 1978. At John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York City, history was about to be written in the language of crime. It was bitterly cold, the kind of winter night that froze breath in the air and coated the tarmac in a thin glaze of frost. The airport hummed with its usual symphony of activity cargo handlers, mechanics, long-haul truckers, and security guards going about their business. But inside the belly of that airport complex, beyond the hangars and the high fences, lay the Lufthansa cargo terminal, and inside that terminal sat millions of dollars in untraceable cash. This was no ordinary stash. For weeks, word had trickled down through the underworld. Lufthansa had been moving shipments of American currency flown back from West Germany. It was cash collected from servicemen, tourists, and business exchanges, all being transported back for processing, and it was piling up millions upon millions of dollars, lightly guarded, hidden in the vault of the Lufthansa terminal, the kind of score that mobsters dream of. And at the center of this dream was a man named Jimmy Burke, better known as Jimmy the Gent. Burke was a longtime associate of New York's Lucchese crime family, a man with a reputation for being charming one moment and ruthlessly cold the next. He wasn't a made man, since his Irish blood kept him from initiation into the Italian Mafia, but he was trusted enough to run major operations. Jimmy knew opportunity when he saw it, and this was opportunity painted in green. The heist was set into motion by a tip. That tip came from a man named Martin Krugman, a bookmaker and beauty salon owner who had overheard from a Lufthansa employee, an airport worker named Louis Werner, that there were enormous sums of cash sitting, practically unattended, in the Lufthansa vault. Werner himself was drowning in gambling debts, and he saw the perfect way to crawl out, feed the information to the mob in exchange for a cut. The information worked its way through channels, landing eventually in the hands of Jimmy Burke, and Burke, seasoned in the art of high-stakes theft, began to plot. He recruited his crew from among his trusted circle of wise guys and associates. These were men who had grown up in the underworld, hardened by petty rackets, hijackings, and stick-ups. Tommy Decimo, volatile and violent, known for his hair-trigger temper; Angelo Sepp, Louis Scafora, Joe Manru, and a handful of others who could be counted on for silence and muscle. At the wheel of the getaway van would be Parnell Stacks Edwards, a musician-turned-criminal, whose job was simple: drive the van after the robbery, ditch it in a safe location, and destroy it so no evidence could be traced. The planning was meticulous. Every detail mattered. The timing, the guards' routines, the way to neutralize the alarm system, even the code words the men would use during the operation. Jimmy Burke was no fool. He knew that one slip could bring the full weight of law enforcement crashing down. And so, in the darkness of December 11th, the crew moved. Shortly after 3 o'clock a.m., a black Ford Econoline van rolled through the airport perimeter. Inside were 6 masked men, each carrying pistols and wearing dark clothes. They knew exactly where to go. Pulling up to the Lufthansa terminal, they ambushed the night security guard as he left his booth. The guard was forced back inside at gunpoint, terrified but alive. The robbers moved with military precision. 2 men secured the employees inside the terminal, tying their hands and covering their eyes with blindfolds. Another went straight for the alarm system. Timing was everything. The heist had to be completed quickly, silently, and without firing a shot. They marched one of the night shift supervisors, pistol pressed against his skull, straight to the vault. The supervisor knew the codes, and under threat of death, he opened the secured area. What the crew saw inside was beyond their wildest expectations. Stacks of cash, mountains of it, bundles wrapped tight in rubber bands, sealed in Lufthansa's official packages. The total take would be $5 million in untraceable bills plus nearly $1 million in jewelry. In 1978, this was unprecedented, the largest cash heist in American history. They loaded the van methodically, bags of money filling the space until it was packed tight. The whole operation had taken less than an hour, and just like that, as quickly as they had arrived, they were gone rolling out of JFK Airport into the freezing night, leaving behind a handful of shaken employees and a crime scene that would soon electrify the nation. At 4:30 a.m., the first police arrived. What they found was chaos, terrified workers, a ransacked vault, and the cold realization that one of the world's most secure airports had just been robbed blind. By the morning, the story was everywhere. Newspapers blared the headline. Radio and TV stations reported in disbelief. The Lufthansa heist wasn't just a robbery, it was a spectacle. But for Jimmy Burke and his crew, the real challenge was only beginning. Because as much as the score had been flawless, what came next would unravel into paranoia, betrayal, and bloodshed. The first crack appeared with Parnell Staggs Edwards. His assignment had been the simplest of all: drive the getaway van to a prearranged junkyard in Brooklyn and have it crushed and disposed of. Instead, high on drugs and reckless, Edwards parked the van near his girlfriend's apartment and left it there. Days later, NYPD found it untouched, filled with fingerprints and potential evidence. Jimmy Burke was furious enough to know what had to be done. Edwards was soon found dead, shot multiple times in the head, his body dumped. His failure had made him a liability, and Burke tolerated no liabilities, but Edwards was only the beginning. As the weeks passed, paranoia spread like wildfire through the crew. Jimmy Burke grew convinced that too many people knew too much, and in the mob, loose ends are tied off with bullets. One by one, those connected to the heist began to vanish. Angelo Sepp dead, Joe Manry and Bobby Jermaine found murdered. Louis Kafora disappeared without a trace. Even Tommy Decimone, Burke's volatile enforcer, eventually vanished, likely killed by the Gambino family in an unrelated dispute. It became clear that the Lufthansa heist, once the perfect plan, was now a bloody curse. Instead of spreading wealth, it spread suspicion. Instead of celebration, it bred silence. And as investigators closed in, it became harder and harder to keep the trail buried. The FBI launched an aggressive investigation. Agents combed through the airport, interrogated Lufthansa employees, and surveilled mob hangouts across Queens and Brooklyn. Wiretaps caught snippets of conversation, hints, teasers, slips of the tongue but never the heart. Evidence needed to convict Jimmy Burke or his higher-ups. In the end, despite the largest investigation of its kind, the Lufthansa heist became a paradox. A crime so spectacular, so infamous, and yet so unsolved. The money was never fully recovered. Most of the conspirators were murdered before they could spend their share. And Jimmy Burke, the mastermind himself, was never convicted for the heist, though he would eventually be imprisoned for other crimes, dying behind bars in 1996. The Lufthansa heist has since become legend, immortalized in books, documentaries, and films like Goodfellas. It is remembered not only as the largest cash robbery in American history, but also as a cautionary tale, the perfect plan that devoured its own. And in the shadows of JFK Airport, one truth lingers even now. Millions of dollars simply vanished, swallowed into the underworld, leaving behind a trail of corpses and a mystery that still fascinates the world of true crime. Thank you for watching Crimes Through Time. If you found this story of the Lufthansa heist as chilling as we did, hit that like button and subscribe for more dark tales from history's underworld. And tell us in the comments, do you think Jimmy Burke really pulled off the perfect heist? Or was it doomed from the very beginning by greed and paranoia? We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay safe,